us a little about your childhood, your growing up years and your family.
Yeah, sure. This is my home. This is where I live now. Next to this house is my ancestral home. That's where I was born 85 years ago. And I went to a local school here called Amaravati School. It was a Malayalam school, no English being taught anywhere here. And then I went to Santa Cruz High School. That is also a Malayalam school. And that was during the British times. And naturally, we were freedom fighters. My home, my folk, my dad, my uncle, and the whole family was involved in freedom fighting. So they had a little allergy toward English and English language. So naturally, I was, shall I say, forced or condemned to learn Malayalam as such as a language which had no, shall I say, prospects outside India. But after that, I went to Loyola College. After my high school career, Chennai. I went to Loyola College and took my degree there. And after that, in year 19, when I was vacationing here, a film director came here. That director wanted to see my father for something. My father was not here, so I entreated him. I asked him to sit down and I was talking to him. While talking, and I was only 18 years old at the time, he asked me whether I would like to act in a movie. I said I would have to ask my father because, we were very orthodox people and acting in a movie might be against their sentiments. So I said I'll request my father, if my father permits me, I would be glad to act. And it was during vacation time. And after some time when my father came, he met me and he asked him whether I would like to act in a movie. Well, I was of course very interested in drama, theatre, and of course everything in Malayalam at that time. And I was familiar with Malayalam movies were just starting out at the time. 1951, 52, there were few movies and some of the old time actors were acting, and I was not very familiar with that field or that world, except that I knew Kunju Kunju Bhagavathar, who was a relative of my mother. I could say he was my mother's cousin in Alleppey. So I used to go for movies, Malayalam pictures as well as English pictures. So I remember going to the theatre to see Kunju Kunju Bhagavathar, a movie called Balan or whatever, old time pictures. And after that, I think it is in a movie called Jeevitha Nauga, something like that. Soon after that, this film for which I was asked to act, I went for, during the time, at the time when I was here, a man had come along with him to sell a camera. And his name was Ramu Kariyad. Ramu said, I would like to sell this camera, it's a still camera, whether I could sell it for him. I knew a person, Suresh, who was in Matancheri, who had a studio. So I took the camera to him. I don't know whether he bought it or not. We became friends. And then Ramu Kariyad, and I told Ramu that I've been asked to act in a movie called Tiramala in Trivandrum, for which I'm leaving next week for a makeup test. Then he asked me whether he could come along with me. I didn't know him very much, but he became very friendly and very pally with me, and he said, all right, why don't we all go both together? There were no cars at that time. We had an old Hillman, and but that wouldn't go far, you know what I mean? And those days, they were all red roads, no tarred roads, no communication whatsoever except through letters, and you have to go by bus to reach there. Old time Karibus, Pazhaya Karibus ille, adi kude pogan pattum. So we went there for a makeup test, and I was said that I was looking good in movies, looking very nice. movies, they would like to accept me right away. Ramu said that he would like to study motion pictures, that he would rather be an assistant director to study. The film was going to be directed by Vimal Kumar, you know that. His original name was Thomas, and he is from near Arthingel. He went to Bombay and studied music and films, and he was in that field for quite some time before he came down to Cochin on an assignment, that is to make this movie. So, that's how I got the role, and I acted as the hero. I'm perhaps the youngest hero in Malayalam movies, hardly 18 years old, and it was the role of a fisherman. And some of the great stalwarts of the motion pictures were there in that movie. All of those old characters, old timers, and they were all new timers then. They became old timers, and people who were in the film were Kumari Tangam was the heroine of the picture. Then there was Eddie Master, there was music director, so many of them. Satyan was there. Satyan was the villain of the picture, and I was the hero. And you had music director from Calicut. Calicut, Abdul Qadir was a singer, and so many others. I forget the names of all those. Babaraj was the music director. Babaraj was, I'm glad you helped me. Babaraj was the music director, and P. Bhaskaran was the lyricist, and cameraman came from Tamil Nadu. And how this picture was made. The picture was moderately successful on account of the music. The music director became very famous. And all the music were hits. Tiramala music became very, very famous. I always wanted to be an artist, a painter, a musician, a music director. I knew how to play instruments, especially the violin. And I was very pally with these people, and they inspired me greatly. So I thought maybe I should study this field. So I went to University of California in Los Angeles.
So it was after Tiramala?
After Tiramala, 1954. Tiramala was released in 1953. In 1954, I left for the United States. And I became a student of motion pictures and theater at the University of California, Los Angeles. And this was one of the 2 universities in the whole of America that imparts knowledge in this particular field, motion picture. So here I was there as a student of motion pictures. Now I wrote also a script called Maya, a story of an elephant. That's the name of the elephant, Maya, which was a part of my what shall I say, thesis, like.
Your graduation?
Yeah, graduation thesis. But somehow or other, that so many of our plays and theater representations, as well as stories, were sent to Hollywood. Just like that. Because the department was always in touch with Hollywood. Hollywood is next door. This particular university is in Westwood. Next to that is Hollywood. That's a city by itself. That's where all the theaters, where all the studios are. They're scattered about the whole district. And this is in Southern California, as you know that.
This was a Hollywood production?
It was a Hollywood product.
So what language was it?
English. King Brothers. It's in King Brothers. It's in English. It's in color picture by MGM, Metro Goldwyn Mayer. Now, one more thing. The entire studio utilized was Mehboob Studios, Bombay. That's the only studio, I would rather say, a complete studio as such. So there weren't that many studios then. So this Mehboob's son was there, youngest son, forget his name. He's the one who came to America to write the contract. They had brought the camera and the crew. Studio sound stage was used only for, say, about 20 or 25% of the production. Sound stage was used. And so that was the story in short. And so then I started acting and as well as writing for movies. I worked for Warner Brothers in the story department. I also worked for various other studios and private producers, still doing, as a matter of fact, still work with them. And that's how the story in short. Then I came back. When I came back,
Made your film.
I made my movie.
Can you
I,
tell us a little about that?
at that,
Did you face any problems and after coming from
I made the movie and the censor board, I couldn't get it through.
Oh,
Censor board, no, because it's too shocking. The film is too shocking. I had to tone down the movie. But if I tone down the movie, then the beauty is lost. So I had a second censorship. And on the second censorship, they allowed me with a lot of cuts. So I went through hell to release the picture. But it was okay. It was black and white suspense movie. I wanted to make a movie with few characters only. It was an anti-hero picture, no hero. A black cat was the hero. I knew to further my career in movies, I would have to have an agent. So I got an agent by the name Jonas Zering. Jonas, who was my agent, said, I can give you acting roles, not writing roles. It's difficult because I don't think they would recognize you as a writer. They definitely recognize you as an actor. So I had a lot of photographs with me, old time pictures. But somehow or other I cut well in cinema. At that time, I'm 85 now. At that time I was 24 or 25 years old. So they said, well, you would cut. They said, you look like a Mexican. And I don't look like an Indian. And we don't have Indian roles also. You don't look like an Indian. How could I inform you that you are an actor from India? Nobody would want you. But India also Indian means American Indian. In America, if you say, I am an Indian, it means American Indian, not in Indian from India, you see. So you look like an Indian means I look like a Mexican. There were a lot of Mexican roles there at the time. And all the cowboy movies were all black and white. So I got a role in a movie, Wanted, Dead or Alive, a movie. And there was a serial in which my job was to go on a horseback, and have fights in the tavern, get drunk, get shot. I may have been killed about 9 or 10 times in the tavern. I am an expert in acting death. That's what I'm good at. Anyway, these are all minor roles, little, what shall I say, glorified extra. That's all I was in a way. But they were coming every week. So I could meet my expenses in America. I had to pay fees, I had to live, I had to go to college in the night and during day, go for shooting. And then one film after another, they came. Wanted, Dead or Alive was the first one. Then came Have Gun, Will Travel. Then came Gunsmoke. They were all serials, all Mexican serial cowboy pictures. Then I came back to India. And that's how I wanted to make movies. And I made 2 movies called Idu Manushano. It was a black and white picture. And I won 2 awards in this. Best Screenplay Writing and Photography. Black and white photography.
So was this
Long, awards in those days were not given by the government. They were given by some departments, like Camera Association, and there was for best screenplay writing and all that sort of thing. It was so long ago. And there were no color pictures. It was again a black and white movie, but it was a very suspenseful picture, very suspenseful in the sense that there was no hero. It was an anti-hero movie. In a black cat, Karim Pucha was the name I would have given it myself. But in Umar is the anti-hero, acting as a killer. Anyway, it was made. It was not a successful picture, but it was okay. It ran for a couple of weeks and it made some money. Okay. And I didn't expect that to be successful because there is no hero in it. But this was a comeback movie for Sheila. Second time. Sheila was the heroine. A lot of others were there, the known actresses. Sheila had, after marriage, had left motion pictures. She was coming back. This was the first picture after child baby was born. So in a way, and then in that movie, the songs were great. Sri Kumaran Thambi wrote the lyrics, and music director Arjunan Master, he did the music. And the famous song Sukhamaru Bindu is from that picture.
Since you came from Hollywood and you worked there, you must have been influenced by a lot of filmmakers from there, right?
Absolutely yes, because one of my favorite directors is Alfred Hitchcock. The Alfred Hitchcock made most of his movies black and white, some of them in color. It doesn't really matter whether it's in color or black and white. He makes it a hit. And 80% of the time, he hits the target. And his suspense is made out to be a kind of a cocktail that people would accept it from the standpoint of film direction. It's a director's movie, every foot of it, every inch of it. It's the director's suspense picture. Keep you guessing. And it is time spliced. It's a technology which he only knew how to do it. We study that in theatre, time splicing. Time splicing is a technology in itself. That is, it is not, in those days it was all celluloid, as you know that. It is not the celluloid that you cut, it is the time that you cut. So the film is in sequence of time and space. It is not merely a celluloid.
So you worked with the most important actors of those times, like Prem Nasir and Satyan. You directed a movie with Umar. How different is it from now? How different do you think it is from now?
Most of the artists during my time were typecast, and Umar was known as a villain all the time. So my picture being a suspense movie in which the villain is the hero of the picture, is the anti-hero, was a cat. So I thought him is the right candidate to do all the murders. And he was known for that. Anti-hero stories are always like that. But anti-hero movies are successful in foreign countries, not romantic movies. But here in Kerala, it is the other way around. It is the romantic pictures that succeed. Especially you have to please the women folk. But to do that, you need large amounts of money, large outlay of funds to produce the picture. You have to bring Prem Nasir, you have to bring so many people. He was acting in so many movies at the time. Perhaps the most number of movies acted by in the role of a hero is Prem Nasir in the world. Over 600 pictures. I think it's a world record. I don't know. I think it is. It should be. And it ought to be. Nasir was also a good friend of mine. And he was okay. I had occupied my guest room for days together. And people used to jump over the wall to see him. Now I had a hard time keeping him here, as a matter of fact, because he was so much liked by the people. And to get a distributor, it is easier to have a man like Nazir acting in a movie than anybody else. By then Satyan had gone, he died. I met Satyan at the airport one day. He had come to Madras for dubbing the movie. That was his last Kuthedati or something like that. And I met him and embraced me and he said, I'm just coming from the United States, as a matter of fact. I met him at the airport, I couldn't believe it. This after seeing him after a very long time. And he says he's not well, he has come for treatment as well as for dubbing the picture. So that was the last time. Soon after that he died. Then Nasir was the only hero. He was claiming everything. If you think he was a romantic hero, he was the heartthrob of the public. And the women folk will have to like the person if you want to see the picture successful. Maybe it's a myth, but I didn't think it was a myth. If you have a Nasir acting in a picture, you can get a distributor right away. Right away you can get it. And half of the picture is being financed by the distributor. So if you need a distributor, you better have some famous artists like Nasir in it. Satyan also wielded a very high position and demanded money too toward his end. He was not the great character hero Malayalam movies have ever made, as a matter of fact. The character actors are there, but he was a character actor who was also a hero. And you would do the romantic role as well as the Rishaman's role equally well. Although he was a great friend of mine after Tiramala, I couldn't have him in any of my movies on account of the fact he was declining in health and he was out of the movies in a way, and he was stretching himself too much to finish his pictures that he had already contracted. So that me to be.
So when you made your film, sir, did you encounter any problems? As in, I'm talking about your Malayalam films. Did you encounter any problems?
No, I had no problem with the distributor. Absolutely no, because Central Pictures were my distributor. It was the first company that distributed Tiramala, my first picture. So all the other things that I did was in connection with the consent of Central Pictures Kottayam. They're still one of the biggest distributors, still active, still alive. It is amazing how it's gone through the last 50 years of cinema. And so they financed, they had no problem, no compulsion so whatsoever to finance Idhu Manishanu. So they make always the money. It is the producer who loses it in a way. But you won't believe it. I made that picture for 3.5 lakhs of rupees. That's all I spent. In those days, that was a lot of money. But I got my money back after 1 or 2 years. But Idhu Manishanu, I got it right. Velarika Patana, I got it right away. I was able to sell the picture outside Kerala. It was more a success than outside the territory of Kerala. To me, that was a realization from the standpoint of money. But as an art picture, it was bad. It was not at all a picture. It was not to my liking. But I was forced to make it in order to make some money out of it. Because I didn't want to make another Idhu Manishanu, an anti-hero picture. Cheaper to make, but difficult to succeed in it. And I had the one problem with censor board, and I was going from one punishment after another.
So, is that why you stopped making pictures afterwards?
I was rather old. And in Idhu Manishanu, fortunately, I did everything for the picture, Velarika Pattanam, music direction, and everything except photography. Practically my story, my everything, comedy. So so it came cheap to me. So there was a realization that I shouldn't be making movies anymore. This is not my cup of tea. So I would rather be a writer in the English language. So I started writing. That's how I began writing stories and novels and stories. I still do. That's my cup of tea now.